This is a test of the Orion camcorder now that I have run a cleaning tape through it. Also using the battery, although I don't know if the battery can really supply enough juice to make this thing work. Okay, it seems to actually be working now. So I guess I can proceed. This is an Orion, what is the model on this? VCM-0300. It's a very weird model number, but of course this is also a very weird camcorder. And like I said, I'm not entirely convinced that this battery can supply enough juice for the camera to work. The view screen that it has is doing some weird things. Apparently this camera needs quite a bit of juice to work. Wouldn't be surprised if some of that is because it has bad capacitors. But anyway, this is a regular vhs-c camera. I'm not sure who would have manufactured it for Orion, or if they made it themselves. I'm surprised this isn't going to break it entirely, but this is what it looks like. You can see it's one of these very weird digital camera looking things. It actually kind of reminds me of the Sharp View Cam, except not quite. It's a slightly different design, and the other thing about it is the camera head doesn't swivel, but it does turn like this, just because the tripod mount on the bottom makes the camera face this way. And I think I'm losing my battery over here. It's starting to fall off the camera. Whoops. Let's see if we can actually get that back closed again, because the shoulder strap is getting in the way. Maybe we'll take this thing for a quick little test, just to see. I'm kind of curious how long the battery will last on this camera, and if it's actually recording properly. A little bit of light at least. Not much. Not enough for it to really work. Realized I forgot to test the zoom. Yeah, 10 times. Yeah, I think this battery is definitely not capable of really powering this camcorder. So we'll come back up and change over to the power supply, since that's probably the most prudent thing to do. Alright, this is what it does with the power supply. I still see a herringbone pattern in the video, so I'm not really convinced that it's totally working. Like I said, you get 10 times zoom with this, which is the extent of it there. And there are basically no features whatsoever to speak of. It's got a counter, and that is it. It's got scene. You get a couple of different scene selections. Sports, Sports 1, Sport 2, Night, Twilight, and flicker reduction. Painting it back to auto. You can change some of the picture controls, brightness. I don't know if that actually applies to the video, or if that's just the LCD. Contrast doesn't even seem to do anything. You can change the color, the tint, the volume. Yeah, that's probably... You probably can't actually see any of that, but whatever. So, the camera works. There is no date-time overlay. In fact, there isn't even anywhere to put a CR2025 battery, or any kind of backup battery for that matter. But that's not the only new camcorder I have. No, I also picked up this. This is a Sony Handycam DCR SR68 hard drive based camcorder. Seems to be in good shape. This is the battery that it came with. It's a slightly larger battery than standard, the so-called Active Force. It's got a manual lens shutter on the front, as well as a video light, which is very useful, at least to me. Pretty similar design overall to the HDR CX190, although obviously this is quite a bit older, and I mean it's got this hump on it for the hard drive, and it's only standard definition, but I believe that it works, so we will now go ahead and change over to it. Okay, I believe we are now recording with the Sony Handycam DCR SR68. If I remember right, B Bishop PCM actually had one of these camcorders originally. Here's a look at the zoom. I think the digital zoom is turned on. I don't know. I don't really care. So, it seems to be working. Here's a look at the video light. Automatic and on. It is pretty effective. Works fairly well. Here's the camera I was using. The Orion. You can see the view screen, which flips up like that. I'll go ahead and we'll turn the camera off. If I can. Where's the switch? There it is. You can see very, very weird controls. Not very many controls, but it's a very strange camcorder. And apparently it uses quite a bit of juice because I had to use a 2.2 amp power supply. My 2 amp one won't work. The camera just behaves like it's busted or something. So, can I actually even close it? It's not closing now. There we go. I don't want to break it or anything. It's got the shoulder strap. There's the aforementioned little thing there. There's the microphone, or at least what I think is the microphone. Flip it around here. Did not come with a tape. Although it did come with a battery. It's a Duracell battery, so I'm pretty sure it doesn't work. But we'll try it out. Possibly even sooner rather than later. I don't know yet. But this thing is definitely working. You can't access the menu while you are recording, I don't think. No, you can. Alright. So we'll see what we can do here. We do have a couple faders, of course. We'll go for the scene selection first. Twilight. Candle. Sunrise and sunset. Fireworks. Landscape. Portrait. Spotlight. Sports. Beach. And snow. Bright pictures of a white landscape. Change it back to automatic. Have a couple faders. So we got a white fader. And a black fader. And that's it. A couple white balance. Indoor. Outdoor. One push. Fixed color balance by a white object. Well, whatever. Spot meter. Change it back to auto or end. Spot meter, spot focus, exposure, focus, telemacro, different record modes. I have it in the high quality mode right now. And there's a couple other things. Steady shot, which it does have face detection, which I turned off because face detection is useless. And I think that's it. You could take still pictures if you really wanted to do that. I don't think it's really worth it. So, But overall, you know, a decent little camera that can be used to record videos. It's only standard definition, but obviously that's alright. It's much easier to edit and upload standard definition video. Easier on hard drive space, too. So I think that's really it for the camera. Don't think there's anything else that I need to demonstrate with it. Here's the next camera here in the Canadian Camcorder Research Facility up for testing. This is a Canon ZR80 mini DV camera. See there, comes with a battery, which is annoying because this is actually a proprietary battery. This is a very proprietary camcorder. I actually got by using a JVC power supply that puts out 11 volts instead of the prescribed 8.4. But it seems to work, so it's the only one I've got that will work. But zoom control, you know, pretty much typical controls. Nothing too fancy. No SD card slots, although it does have, obviously it's a mini DV camera, and it opens from the bottom. So, I guess there's one thing. There's your lens. Not really a big lens, so I don't know if it's really any good. But we're going to find out right now, thanks to the magic of video editing. Okay, well, here is the ZR80. It's in widescreen mode. So it's 16 by 9, which I believe is a true 16 by 9. It was able to play back the footage on the tape, so I'm assuming that it's actually working as a camcorder. But I guess we'll find out. So this one's got digital effects. I'm trying to think here. It's got a couple of effects. This is art, which I guess is solarize in Sony parlance. It's rather annoying to do this. Black and white, sepia, mosaic, ball. That might be interesting to look at. Woo! Cube. That's neat. Wave. So this is like the Allura 40. It's probably the same firmware. Oh, you can't. Color M. What does that do? Interesting. Mirror. And that's it. The mirror effect is pretty straightforward. You got a couple of fades as well, but again, it's similar to the Allura 40, so you can go watch that video if you want to see more of these fades. I'm not really going to spend too much time with them. So we'll just turn that off. Go away. And it's got a night mode, which I guess is automatic slow shutter. Manual focus. Unusual kind of thing. It's got this record pause button, which doesn't seem to do anything. I guess that's for the VTR mode or something. Really not sure about that. I'm using the battery that the camera came with. Seems to be working alright. So, tested the zoom. I've turned the digital zoom off. Image stabilizer is also on. I do need to replace the backup battery. I think it's doing some strange things with the shutter speed even with night mode off. I can kind of see it slow down every once in a while. I don't know if that's a problem or if that's just the way it's supposed to be. Wow, this thing has a very narrow field of view. You don't realize that until you actually go to try and go to something up close. But here is the last camera on the hit parade here in this video. Pretty similar to the one that I'm using right now, except either a little bit newer or a little bit higher end. This is the ZR200. You can see it actually takes SD cards, or MMC cards, multimedia cards. MMC card is kind of a redundancy, but whatever. The controls are slightly different, but still very much reasonably well the same. But it takes a different battery. It's actually a standard Canon battery as opposed to this one that I'm using now, which takes a stupid battery I don't have anything else, any replacement for. But other than that, it's pretty much exactly the same. So we will go ahead and switch over to it. After I go ahead and I will actually give one of the faders a try on this camera, just because I happen to think it's really cool. And here is the ZR200. Really doesn't look that much different than the 80 that I was just using. Although it's definitely got a little bit less narrow of a field of view. Not much, but every little bit certainly does help. But again, it's pretty much the same camera. Same video quality, really. And it's definitely still doing that weird thing with the shutter speed. Except the battery is kind of low. I'll probably have to charge that. Yep, now it's telling me to change the battery, so I don't know if it's even recording this right now. Oh, it still is. So I think I'm going to call it a clip. Alright, we're back with the DCR SR68. Giving this a good old try in some moderate low light conditions to see how well it does. It seems to be performing okay. Turn on the video light. Actually seems to be doing fairly well for itself. So this is a very good camera. And as somebody who makes a lot of use of standard definition stuff, this wouldn't be so bad of a camera to use. Although, like I keep saying, that's not going to stop me from using the tape-based cameras far more often than I'd use this. So there are the cameras. Now, lost video from the mini DV cameras will be uploaded separately, just because I think, well, it might be uploaded separately, it might not. I don't know yet, but I do have 2 tapes with presumably with footage on them. Depending upon the contents, like I said, they'll be either in this video or not. I'm leaning towards not, because there's probably a lot of video on at least one of those tapes, and I don't know the status of what's on there with respect to copyrighted content. I don't really want this video being muted or taken down or anything like that, just because, like, 25 seconds worth of video on one of those tapes happens to be some kind of copyrighted material. Now, these aren't the only cameras I got, but they are the only ones that will be featured in this video because they are the only ones that work. I have another Nikon camera here. This is an older one. It's not quite as old as the VN500, but it is still pretty old. You can see it's got the old style lens on it. But it doesn't matter, because it doesn't work. I don't know if there's even any camera electronics in here. There might be. But I don't think it doesn't power on, even when I try to put something here. I get no response out of the camera. A lot of the controls are really kind of sticky. Like the eject button doesn't do anything if I plug something into it, so that was kind of a waste of time. The other one that was also kind of a waste of time, and I knew this, so I shouldn't have picked it up. I did grab another one of these just to try it, and I think it's I don't know if it's worse or better than the other one. It might be slightly better, but it's still not exactly functional. So, but this one is interesting. And it's interesting because of the packaging material. Now, normally packaging material is not really all that interesting at all, and I didn't think this was, so I was about to shred all this stuff. And then I happened to notice stuff like that. That's fairly interesting. That's not the only thing there. All these pieces of paper correspond to stuff having to do with the Monon line. What is it? Monon Railroad Historical Technical Society. Those green pieces of paper are presumably renewal or subscription pages. There's 2 of them for some reason, but they're there. But the big things has nothing to do with that. No. The big thing is these. The Herald News. These came from Phoenix, I think. Somewhere in Arizona, anyway. But check that out. October 22nd of 1999. Now, I don't remember which one of these it was. It was this one. But you can see, those of you who are into sports will be probably really interested in this. Back then, Joe Girardi was actually a player. What else is interesting on here? Darryl Strawberry's name shows up. I mean, Chili Davis. I mean, I'm not a big sports fan, but I do recognize some of these names at least. That's the New York Yankees. Also has the Atlanta Braves over on the other side. I think, yeah, this was a playoff series. And it looks like, given it looks like a 7-game series, probably the World Series? I think, yeah, that would be what that is. The World Series. In fact, it actually says it right there. I'm friggin' blind. So, there you go. Couple of names. Chipper Jones shows up on here. Who else? Interesting. Roger Clemens. Mariano Rivera. Anyway, so there's one thing. So that's really cool. Might have to see if I can somehow scan that. Might be a little difficult just because of how big it is. But here's the other one. Looks like it comes from the same newspaper. Section C. Yes, it comes from the same newspaper. Same week, presumably. Should say on it. Yeah, Friday, October 22nd of 99. Kind of interesting that somebody actually kept around newspapers from 99. So that's cool. So I guess even though the cameras didn't end up working out, at least I got something out of it. Camera. It only came with one. So, anyway, it's a typical problem. It's got bad capacitors. The viewfinder is all funky and weird. I think it is a little better than the other one, because I think the other one doesn't even have a viewfinder at all. It just doesn't come on. But this one, it's not any good either. I might see if there's an output. Probably not. I don't think it's putting the image sensor on, so it's really not that useful anyway. Okay, thank you for watching. I'm going to conclude the video with that. If you've got any comments, feel free to leave them down below. And this is CP666 signing off, and hope to see you next time. Till then.